My name is Carissa Ignasiak Bell. I am the daughter of Dr. Robert Leonard Ignasiak from Freeport, Florida. Once my dad retired, he had the ability to enjoy the much missed time he had from his children. He enjoyed getting up and having breakfast with them in the morning and taking them to school and to the beach and to karate practice, the things that every father enjoys with their children. That was cut short when he was arrested at home at 6 o'clock in the morning in front of his 3 young children. My father moved to a small town in Freeport that was in desperate need of a physician. It was a small town with 2 traffic lights. I worked every day alongside my father and was very in tune with the patients. I knew them by name. I went to school with their children, or they actually became friends, and I fished with them on the weekend. We had a very family practice. All of my dad's patients were like family. So if he prescribed a new medicine, he always went over the side effects, that if you take this on an empty stomach, you get sick. If this is a controlled substance, you don't mix alcohol with it. As the office manager of Dr. Bob's clinic, if you received any sort of controlled substance, you were given a controlled substance contract form. It was a contract stating that you knew how to take your prescription, that you were going to take it the way that it was prescribed, and that you weren't there trying to gain narcotics for any other reason than your problems, your pain. The government, even though they showed that during the trial, never truly explained that this was a contract written up by the DEA. It was given to my father at a conference. In the first trial, the prosecution was very clever with a shock and awe of bringing bags and bags of prescriptions in front of the jury and setting them up on the table. They weren't all controlled substances that they led the jury to believe. They were antibiotics, blood pressure medicine. Dr. Jordan was an expert witness out of the Carolinas who came in for the government as their expert in the interpretation of Dr. Bob's charts. He never actually laid one hand or met one patient that was reviewed or in the indictment or any of his charts. But later we found out that the government had sealed an arrest that Dr. Jordan had by impersonating and carrying false credentials and a gun on a plane. It was in exchange for him to be a cooperating physician witness against other physicians to participate in trials so he would avoid his own prosecution. Once the conviction was read and sentencing happened, and a few months later, we immediately started the appeal process. Roy Black and his staff out of Miami were able to have those documents unsealed, and it was a very powerful piece that helped in the reversal of my dad's conviction. Our case was overturned, my father was released, and we had the ability to start again as they were moving forward, meaning the government, to retry him on the same charges. My father's personality, I can say, hardened once he came home. He's obviously been away from his wife, his family, his kids. The house that he left and knew was gone and sold. He was staying in a house he had never seen before. So naturally, it was a little difficult for him at that time when he returned back home. We were getting closer to the trial. I think my father panicked. I know he panicked. I think he felt so desperate, what he had already been through, what his children, his family had been through. He attempted suicide and failed, so he ran. In a second trial, he felt desperate. He had Roy Black of Miami, one of the top attorneys in the country. And if he couldn't get a good old, hometown doctor off, I think my dad felt he didn't have a chance to win again. And I think he was alone. And he made the decision all on his own that he would either be in prison without his family or on the run without his family. The government leaned upon my brother and my mother and my aunt and myself with hours of interrogation, letters, requests for 3 of the family members to appear before a grand jury. And it just happened to be that within 3 weeks of the grand jury notification, my dad was found in Broward County. In cooperation with the government, he pled guilty on all drug charges to save the lives of the 3 family members the government was looking at. We were able to take our father home for one last weekend prior to the conviction the following week, where he was convicted and taken away from us in handcuffs and was not able to hug his family goodbye. I watched my father take his wedding rings off, his belt, his watch, and wave to us gently with that smile in his and twinkle in his eye that he always had. It was the hardest day of my life.